This is Enabling Media, enabling content through new media.
Hi, my name is Kabe, and I'm the head of operations here in GSI. I've been working with Guild for 4 years now, started 2017. So as an operations lead, I ensure that day-to-day operations run smoothly for both staff and onshore managers. Usually, I have a brief catch-up with team members on how they are and how are they coping up with the current situation. And also, I'm doing some administrative functions to support the teams here in Manila. The teams that are reporting to myself is the quality team. I'm also indirectly managing claims and admin operations team, and with Guilding some of the administrative functions. I had worked with different companies now, and I can say that Guild is the most humane company that I've ever been with. They see people as the treasure of the company and even extending great efforts to support people's welfare. Change is very constant, and we need to adapt to whatever is present. As I know that every staff is unique and has unique personality. When you have a bunch of these unique persons in your group, one leadership style wouldn't work out. So it's a combination of different styles that I learned from during the past few years. True introspection might be a bit hard, as it requires an acknowledgement of your own flaws and weaknesses. But through this, you'll know where and how to direct your energies. And as you know yourself better, you will have a clear idea of what is right or wrong. And because leaders will be seen as people of influence, whether it be on actions or words. Once they see a positive influence on you, then you're on the great start of being a leader.
Hi everyone, I'm Anthony Ash, the New South Wales Workers' Comp Team Manager. I've been with Guild for 2.5 years now. Prior to Guild, I was in workers' compensation roles at QBE and GIO Insurance. So I've been in the workers' comp industry for about 12 years now. From this incoming role, I'm expecting a hard-working administration claims officer to help us with processing invoices and entering and lodging new claims. Someone that will fit in with the team and get along with the current claims officers, as well as being able to interact with the workers' case managers here to help out with any queries or inquiries. I think my management style is fairly relaxed, as well as still being helpful and proactive in any needs and training that any of the staff require. Always approachable and open to any questions and helping with any work that needs to get done. The shifts that we'll be offering are 6 a.m. to 3 p.m. local time, Monday to Fridays with weekends off. Some requirement for public holidays depending on timing and workload and things like that.
This year's GSI conference is brought to you by HR Network, Guild Solutions Inc., and Enabling Media, enabling content through new media.
Hello and good day to all of you, and to our viewers in Asia, good morning. To our viewers in Australia, good afternoon. And to our viewers in North America, good evening. My name is Kabe, and I'll be your host for today. Last week, we sat down with HR Network President and CEO of Froilan Florendo in one of our sessions in GSI conference, where he walked us through the career trends in Philippines post COVID-19. You can catch the previous episodes of GSI conference on YouTube and stream on Spotify. For more learning sessions, job opportunities, and news about the company, please follow us on our official media properties. This April, Guild Solutions Inc. is holding its annual GSI conference, a long week event where we host learning sessions for our staff. But today, we're doing this differently. This with this year's theme, Expand Horizons, Expand Opportunities, we'll be featuring insightful talks on professional growth from speakers within and outside of our organization. For the first time in 4 years, we're opening it to the public. Today, we will be speaking with our own Jalan, the Vice President and COO of Guild Solutions Inc. This episode of GSI Conference is made possible by Guild Solutions Inc. and Enabling Media. For our viewers in the Philippines, we will be flashing information on your screens on how to request for a certificate of attendance throughout this event. To avoid distraction and ensure maximum participation, the form will only be active in certain times of this event. So please watch out for announcements. We are seeing some activities on our social media, so let's greet some of the people. We have one saying good morning from Shojal, and another one for Janelle. Hello, ma'am, sir, watching from PUP Lopez. Hi, Janelle. And we also have our very own Micah Sutari. Good morning, lovely people from all over the Philippines. Hopefully, you're all enjoying watching now. Another one for Almarie Ledesma. She's saying good morning. Good morning to you as well. And also for Mick Lorenzana Memoracion. Good morning from Catanduanes State University. We're going as far as Catanduanes. Hello there and hi. Hopefully you're all doing good in Catanduanes. So so that's it for now. If you have any question regarding the show, if you have any questions directly to our guests, don't forget to type it in. We're streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. We are now transitioning to the main show. So you're watching GSI conference. We will be back soon.
This is Enabling Media, enabling content through new media.
The Mangrove Mountain community is really very special and unique. We are the only childcare centre here, and we hold a really important place in the community.
My kids have come to Mountain Community Children's Centre since they've been young children. I actually came here as a child too, so I've got a real love and just connection to this centre.
So it was a Monday morning, and I actually got a phone call from the cleaner. The cleaner said, "Oh, there's a fire at the preschool." And I said, "What? At the preschool? The preschool's on fire?" "Yes." So I said, "All right, I'll be there." So I jumped in the car. The centre was still sort of on fire. I just looked up at the building and just started to cry. So I thought how much work everyone had put into this over the last 35 years.
It was very devastating. I remember crying in the car because I just didn't know what was going on, and it was just sounded so devastating, and it was hard, yeah. The support we had when the fire happened was amazing, with everyone helping with fundraising, and donations were coming out of the woodwork from everyone.
If we couldn't reopen in a temporary location, we would have had to close the doors, I guess, and the families would have had to travel elsewhere for childcare, which would have been really impractical.
People in our community need this service. They need to be able to rely on a centre to drop their kids off in a safe space.
The morning of the fire, Louisa actually rang me on my mobile. They were unable to save one of the buildings, which was their main building. Due to that, they had to close down.
She was really upset for us, and she said, "All right, I'll get on to someone straight away for you, and we'll push this through." Guild had an insurance assessor out that afternoon. So within a few hours, and then my first question was to him, "Can we relocate? We need to go somewhere. We need to find somewhere for our families."
Louisa was able to find out that they had this perfect place that they could move into with a few adjustments.
This space is really amazing, so we did it. Lots of problem solving. It works perfectly. We couldn't have asked for anything better.
My children settled in here straight away. They'd had 6 weeks off from seeing their friends, so coming back together was that moment where you just go, this is so right, and this is just so lovely.
And we're all really excited about the new location. We'll be able to put our roots down, because I guess in our temporary space here, we've found our place, but it's sometimes difficult to actually make it your own.
We are all so excited at the thought of moving back into this brand new wonderful centre.
Every time we drive past, my kids kind of go, slow down, look at that, yes, oh, I can hear the workmen. It really is the future of our community.
Guild's always here for her. She only has to phone. If anything's troubling her, we're here to help.
I felt like we were never ever alone with Guild. Well, for your sense of well-being and security, it knows that you're never on your own, and you feel wonderful because you feel supported, and you feel like you can get up the next morning, come back to work again the next day. And I'm so excited. I'm actually excited right now just thinking about it, so happy. Be elated, I think, yeah. I am so proud that I walk in this door every day. We started with nothing, with a pile of rubble, and we worked together with the insurer. We kind of designed, we developed, and then now we've got this most incredible space to come to work in every day. To watch the families experience the new site was incredible. That first day that they walked in the door, the best reaction was the families' faces. There was no words to describe how happy they were. The staff, the children and the families have all settled in so quickly. They're so resilient. I feel they've just embraced the new space. I could never have imagined that we'd be here right now. I knew it would come, but I didn't expect it. This is beyond my expectations. We were really surprised that an insurer would personally take on a small service in a small community, but because our service is so important to our community, they embraced that. We got this beautiful building out of it for our families and our children and our staff. I can truly say that I'm very grateful and very appreciative that we have Guild Insurance as our insurer, to know that we'll be supported for anything at any time. With this wonderful building that we have, Mountain Community Children's Centre can be flourishing for another 100 years. So that's really exciting to know that our future is here. We've got this wonderful building that we can just continue to use and to love, and to let it grow with us.
We don't see problems, we only see solutions. We think differently and we're proactive, and most importantly, we make things happen.
We see people as the treasure of the company, and even extending great efforts to support people's welfare.
Always be you, unashamedly you. Don't feel like because you're female you have to be distant.
To kind of say yes when you're given an opportunity can lead you to the next thing, and you never know where you're going to end up.
This year's GSI conference is brought to you by HR Network, Guild Solutions Sync, and Enabling Media, enabling content through new media.
Hello, hi, good day to all of you. I'm back. I'm Ray, and welcome to GSI Conference. In today's session, we are going to discuss some insights and ways on how we can present ourselves properly in a virtual setting. Our speaker today is no guest to us. In fact, we've seen him many times in our previous events, as he was the host on most of them and our executive producer. And now he's one on the spotlight. He has over 15 years of experience in business process outsourcing industry, with more than 10 years experience in managing medium to large scale operations. A people person, he has been on several managerial positions across different notable companies like 5 PTY Ltd, Macquarie Group, Teletech, Dell, and at eTelecare Global Solutions. His professional experience spread throughout business operations, including management, customer engagement, and development and facilitation of modules and trainings. A graduate of Associate of Arts from the University of the Philippines, he loves to watch news not just to know the latest updates, but as pastime, he loves seeing the visuals on TV. With all his experience in management and communications, including his extraordinary hobby, it's clear that our speaker is very adept in doing effective presentation and communication materials. So, without further ado, friends, here to talk about presenting in the age of virtual presence is our very own Vice President and COO, Jalan Nolasco.
Thank
Hi,
you, Ray.
Jal.
Can you hear me well?
Yes, we can hear you well.
All right. Thank you for those kind words. And I'm sure
Uh,
the only reason why you and Sam put that on paper is because it's bonus time.
yes.
Um, no, I'm just trying to make it light for everyone. Good morning, everyone. And now I know how it feels to be on the other side of the fence. Usually, I'm just the one hosting and grilling everyone. Now I'm doing the presentation side. But thank you, Ray. But please
Oh.
don't go away that often. I will be asking your help to understand what's going on in social media every now and then throughout the presentation.
No worries, no
It's
worries.
it's also about, if my math is right, 49 minutes away from lunchtime. So I'll try to
Correct.
make this as engaging as possible. And also, if you want to eat while watching, you can do that as well. There
Definitely
will
so.
be there will be times I'll ask some questions, and feel free to join, because that's the only way we can make this work for all of us. And we'll
Yes.
discuss
Yeah.
later why it's important to engage audiences.
Yeah.
If I could request our Wonder Boy Direct, Sam Sotare, to help me project my um, presentation. Thank you. All right. So again, the title of today's talk, presenting in the age of virtual presence. Um, it's difficult. Yep. I think that's the first thing we need to acknowledge. We have been used to PowerPoint presentations. We have been used to talking to people face to face. We have been used to speaking to an audience inside a theater or an auditorium. And now it's an entirely different game. I think we have to acknowledge that first. After acknowledging the problem, then the solution comes thereafter. But before we go into the details, let me ask all of you, why are you here? Now, I know why Ray is here, because he's hosting the presentation today, and I know why Sam is here is because he's directing our show. But may I ask, can you type on your comment section on Facebook, YouTube, or LinkedIn? Why are you here? What are you looking at getting out of this session? Just go ahead and type those comments. And Ray, if you could tell me if social media is already interacting, let me know what you see on the
Yeah.
socials.
I'll be
Are
I
they
will be on
starting
the
to type?
lookout. Yeah, some of them are.
So let's see.
We have one for Regina Rose Regidor. She's telling virtual ideas.
Hmm. Do we have more?
Yes, we have more like Ryan Yap saying to learn,
To learn. I hope you could learn from me.
and Mary Joyce Condino saying she's telling that for upskilling.
All right. Great.
Another one for Gilmer Talosig to learn on how to deal the changes in education brought by the pandemic.
Oh, this is very important because the traditional way of schooling
Yeah,
is
it's
now
more
obsolete.
face
It
to face. Yeah.
was made obsolete by COVID-19 overnight. So everybody had to adapt. So let's see if some of the topics I have here would be
And we also have
beneficial for
one
you.
from Mark Lester to learn how can I present myself better in virtual conferences.
Hmm, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Do we have more or
We'll just get one more
all right?
for CJ Caparas to learn something new that can help me improve and enhance my skill in the virtual stage.
All right. These are very good set of
Good.
expectations. Thank you, Ray. I'll come back to you later. So, what we'll cover today might be addressing most of the expectations that you've made, that you typed in social media right now. First topic that we're going to cover would be to understand what are the main differences between physical presentations and virtual presentations. What's the difference between physical audiences and virtual audiences? Whereas some of the differences might be obvious. Let's try to take a look at them in more detail for us to understand how should we behave in a virtual environment versus physical. Um, and then after that, we're just going to go through some interesting numbers. Um, and then third on the topic today would be debunking the myth of attention span. To be honest with you, try Googling human attention span. Different sources will tell you it's 20 minutes, some of them 40 minutes, some of them 5 minutes, but we'll try and debunk that later during this discussion. And then at the latter part of the presentation, we'll talk about managing virtual one-on-ones, team meetings, large audiences, and I won't pretend to be an expert. I'm going to share with you some of the experiences we had in Guild as a company and as an organization, and some of the research I did in preparation for this talk. Now, let's try to look at the stark differences between physical presence and virtual audiences. While some of them may be obvious, again, let's try to take a look at them in more detail so that we'd know how to attack each of these settings. Now, because we've been doing physical presentations since time immemorial, it's a little familiar, isn't it? When I was a bit younger, and I think it's going to start revealing my age, but when I was a bit younger, everybody was just doing it via manila paper, via or writing on the board. Then when I was in middle school, people started to use acetate to project things on a wall or on a projector. And then when I was in college, people started to use PowerPoint presentations via projector. And then right before the pandemic, some other companies started to use virtual presence or telepresence. And then instead of projectors, they started to use LED TVs because it's more cost efficient and the upkeep is more cost efficient. Um, but to tell you honestly, it's familiar, isn't it? I mean, because we've been doing it ever since we were young, and we saw how people were presenting since we were young. It has become very familiar to the point that it's become clockwork. It's like clockwork. The moment you open your eyes, it's like breathing. You know it naturally. You know how to use PowerPoint presentations. You know how to talk to your classmates. You know to how to talk to your students, to your employees, to your staff, to your teammates. It has all become very familiar. So the reliance on technology is either low or medium, depending on the type or the size of audience you're presenting with. Also, it's easy to see nonverbal cues. What do I mean by nonverbal cues? So people who are trying to close their eyes because they're bored. People who are nudging each other because they're passing notes in school about their crushes and all that. Um, it's easy to tap someone on the back for saying, "Hey, well done, good job." All of these disappeared. So the physical touch is obviously absent because of because of the pandemic, because everybody's working from home. But we have to find a way to engage everyone. So all of these disappeared. Also, herding behavior. What do I mean by herding behavior? If you've been through a live um, a play, a musical play, an opera, or maybe if you've seen a movie where a similar stage play or an opera ends, and one person just stands out of nowhere and shouts "Bravo!" and then claps his or her hand, and then you see all the other people in the audience, gradually stands up and agrees, "Yeah, bravo." That's herding behavior. So since we are, no man is an island, um, we like to stay together. We like to become part of a pack. So if someone starts an action, the rest follows. Now, if you want to influence the audience, you can actually do that, and it's easier to do that via physical presence. But now, since everybody is, um, physically detached and are operating from different locations, it's difficult to influence herding behavior. In fact, herding behavior is, is seldom seen apart from virtual gestures that we'll talk about later. Now, the effect on the presenter is, of course, because you're familiar with your school, you're familiar with your classroom, you're familiar with your office, you're familiar with the theater you're going to present to, or the auditorium where you're going to have the event, or at least you go there before a day before and you familiarize yourself. You gain some confidence. Um, and also, just like what we mentioned earlier, it's easier to adjust the audiences when they're physically present. If you see that people are falling asleep because you're boring, then you change your tone right away. But in settings like these, where it's difficult to see how you guys are behaving in front of me right now, and most especially if you guys are on Zoom or on Teams, and your internet is not good at home, and then suddenly the speaker says, "Okay, turn your cameras off," because it's affecting the quality of our streams, then the physical interaction actually lessens. Um, Again, also if it's face to face, you can actually the speaker, him or herself, can start a herding behavior to influence herding behavior. I mean, so again, all of these are, I think you know already, but let's try to differentiate the physical presence, virtual presence, um, because virtual presence relies heavily on technology. The effect of the presenter is that he or she must exhaust all possible features of the technology to be able to engage his or her audience. Like, for example, in this presentation right now, every time we do a webinar, because StreamYard, the platform we're using for streaming, enables us to play videos, we try to tell all of you who are watching right now the story behind our company, Guild Solutions and Guild Group. So we play commercials that we play on TVs or different avenues in Australia that our audiences over there see, so that you can try and understand and relate to whatever the company does for our people in Australia. Um, Also with Zoom, so some people would encourage people to join via typing on chat or via virtual gestures like the thumbs up or the thumbs down. In Facebook, you can actually do emoticons like the angry, like, heart. Now we have the care or the woe and the sad emoticons. So we have to be smart in using these available technologies to be able to engage our audiences. Um, because of the absence of nonverbal cues, these technologies are imperative. So we need to encourage our audience to participate, else we're going to lose audience engagement. That's the only way for them to remain attentive throughout the session. And also because if all of you or most of you are watching me from your homes right now, we must allow for interruptions and breaks. So if you're going to notice, if this is not the first time you've attended a guild webinar, there's actually a short break in between the main event and the Q&A. because people would have to attend to whatever they need to attend to at home. And that's a reality in the setting nowadays. We have to allow for interruptions and breaks. And if ever there is a meeting and a child just suddenly blurts out of nowhere, we have to empathize and not ridicule, because that's reality of life right now. And to be honest, since virtually our audience let us in their homes, if you're watching me from your home right now, the setting is more intimate. So you're expecting me to be a little bit warm, not to be entirely detached. And that's one thing that communicators right now need to master. Because if we try to speak to our audience in a way that we're still talking to them as if we are in a physical environment, then the whole thing falls down. Some presenters are still talking to their audience as if they're physically together, but that's not gonna work anymore. Like the presenter goes on and on and on and on, it's not gonna work anymore. You must allow for pauses and from time to time ask your audience if you have questions. That's the only way you could understand if people are still paying attention, or if something is bothering in their heads. There's no verbal cues anymore that would suggest to you that people are not paying attention. So you would have to solicit verbal feedback from them directly. Now, also, most of our social interactions transition to virtual presence. I mean, how many how many webinars are playing in Facebook today? We are not the only webinar, to be honest with you. In fact, right before this session, I attended a webinar facilitated by the Department of Health for the vaccine rollout in the Philippines. And then later in the afternoon, there's another seminar for my school. So it's our duty as communicators to make sure that we don't add to that burnout. The mere clicking of the button join in a webinar is already a contributor to burnout. So we need to do as much as possible, all ways and means to engage our audience, to make them feel good that if they walk away, they actually got something from it and they did not die of boredom. Now, also, lastly, there's a new wave of entertainment technologies that contributes to the current generation's expectations of learning. What do I mean? Um, can I just ask our wonder boy Sam Sotare, our director? Sam, are you there?
Yes,
Please
Jel.
join the. There you are, ladies and gentlemen. Our our director and EP for today's show, Sam Sotare. Sam, how old are you, if you don't mind?
I'm 23. I just turned 23.
20, 23.
Yeah,
Belated happy birthday.
thank
So
you.
he was 22 24 hours ago. Um,
That's right.
Happy birthday. Sam, how often do you watch regular terrestrial TV? When you say terrestrial TV, the shows that are being fed live via an antenna.
Mm, that is very seldom. I am actually watching movies that are in demand right now, nowadays. So I rarely really watch TVs nowadays.
All right. What's your main source of movies?
Netflix mainly,
Netflix.
and some other streaming sites. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you, Jel.
Um, Thank you. Ray, still there?
Yes, I'm here.
All right. So we can classify Sam as a Gen Z. Now let's reveal Ray's age. How old are you, Ray?
I am 34, turning 34 now.
34. All right. So we can classify Ray as a millennial. Ray, how often do you watch terrestrial or cable TV?
Actually, it's been 2 years when I last watched cable TV, but thankfully there are streaming now. Like for example, we have YouTube and also have Spotify. No, it's not really Spotify, but Netflix. Just for in order to us to watch some movies that really wanted to.
All right. YouTube,
Yeah, it's
Hello and all.
YouTube.
All right, cool.
Uh-huh.
Thank you, Ray. All right. I think
No
that
worries.
drives the point for number three. Entertainment and learning nowadays are actually democratized. It's now in your hands, literally in your hands. What you want to watch, what you want to learn, how you want to learn, and how you want to watch. So if we don't ride these changes, we're going to be obsolete. The millennials and the Gen Zs are now driving today's economy. And if we insist that we are right all the time, we're going to lose market focus and eventually lead to obsolescence. What do I mean by making learning democratized? You know, trying to ask them what content they want to have, making learning available on demand, meaning I can't force all of you to join today's learning live, so you can actually join it afterwards. So if you're not available now, just watch it afterwards. We make it available on YouTube, Facebook anyway, so you can watch it on your own convenience. And if you don't do that, you're learning our significance as communicators actually becomes obsolete. Now, let's just go through some interesting numbers real quick that would help us drive the conversation for today. First, about 7 out of 10 people, when asked by LinkedIn, they were asked, did you just stay put or increase the amount of investment that you pour on webinars? 7 out of 10 said, yes, we did. Why? To be honest with you, how much is an event rental? I mean, if you go to SMX, for some of you have an idea, or the PICC, or any convention centers, you go there, ask them how much is it per hour. You're gonna be surprised with the rates if you're not very familiar. And all of these actually disappeared when the pandemic kicked in. All we need to do is to pay, I don't know, maybe a small amount of pesos or dollars as compared with an event rental. Now, the only investment that we need to pour in really would be a platform like here in StreamYard or Zoom or Teams, which is very insignificant as compared to an event, a place for an event. Also, you'd have to rent for a sound system, lighting, stage. You would have to mobilize a lot of staff, and all of these disappeared when the webinars kicked in. So definitely, marketers would prefer webinars instead of actual live events. But I think this is not just true for the one who's organizing, but also for most of you. I mean, who would want to go out right now that there's a threat in COVID-19? People would really would prefer to stay at home and learn from home. And that's why there's an increased investment in webinars to make it more engaging, to make it more influential, to make it more informative, to make it work better for our audiences. Um, 75% agree that's an efficient source of leads. What do I mean by leads? For some of you are familiar with marketing, leads are, the just random sources, possible sources of sales. Now, when we successfully convert sales into something that's revenue generating, then we start calling them clients. And 20% of these leads from webinars actually become clients. So again, it's a very effective and efficient source of traffic, of sales traffic, of engagement traffic. So who wouldn't want to have seminars or webinars? Also, let's go to the audience part. Now, if you think that it's only Filipinos who love last minute things, actually no. 3 out of 10 individuals would prefer to register on the same day, or at least a day before, within 24 hours of the event. Now, what does it say? Two things. If you want to encourage people, if you need to have an early attendance, then have an incentive for people to register early. If your event is a paid event, then give out early bird incentives. If it's a free event, then give some other kinds of incentives, like maybe a free ebook or a free e-certificate. As long as you provide an incentive for them to attend ahead of time. Now, if you do not actually need early bird registrants, if you're pretty much comfortable about the size of the audience that will be attending, and you just need to focus your your money into more productive means, your investment into more productive means, then invest your ads on the days closest to the event because that's when it's going to solicit more participation. How many people are actually attending webinars? Only 40% of the registrants actually show up in attendance. Why? Because there's no incentive to attend anyway. Look, if they paid, most probably they'll attend. But if it's a free webinar, only 40%, according to medium.com. But for enabling media, here in our case, about 30% of registrants in Facebook actually attend the event itself. 25% watch replays, according to medium.com. For our case in enabling media, because our webinars are available for free, and after the event, you can stream it still on Facebook or YouTube. Close to 60% of our post-event viewers are actually not registered. So maybe they just saw it on Facebook, or they just really wanted to view it after the event. And I would like to take this opportunity right now to thank all of you who have been watching our webinars, because we have been averaging at 2,000 views per webinar for the past month. So really, thanks to all of you. Um, Only 22% prefer to watch it live. See, this is what I meant earlier about democratized learning and viewing and entertainment. Only very few people want to watch it live. And these people want to watch it live because they have questions to ask, or because there are perceived values like ebooks or attendance certificate. But if you ask them, based on their free will, if they want to watch it live, they actually, no, I wanted to watch it during my free time, which is understandable. Now, 66% or 7 out of 10, almost 7 out of 10 people leave the webinars early because they find no value, which is okay. For some of you who have real-time view of your audience on your webinars, don't lose hope if at the beginning of the webinar you started with like 1,000 audience, and at the end, or in the middle, it started dwindling down to 200, 250. That's all right. These people are invested on staying in your webinar. So these are the people who you really need to connect to. Look at it as if you've been if you've heard of the 80-20 rule, you just need to focus on the significant few, but not on the majority. If you address the significant few, it actually affects the result of the majority. So just focus on whoever is left on the webinar and talk to that person, or talk to those persons, to engage those people to make the most out of it. And that's all right. Again, you don't need 10 million attendees. You just need people who would actually listen and connect to you. 42% of the presenters say that their webinars only last 45 minutes. But is it because they're respecting, they don't want to distract, they don't want distracted audiences, or maybe it's because they don't really have that much of content, which is all right. In enabling media, our average webinars actually last 50 minutes. Some of the other minutes in there are allotted for breaks and ads. Um, but we'll discuss an interesting topic later, which is the human attention span, and I'll tell you why you don't need to be conscious about the length of time unless you're paying for airtime, which is not the case. As long as you keep your audience engaged, we'll take a look at that later. Almost 3 out of 10 individuals or participants, according to Medium.com, want their sessions to be mid morning. An almost equal number of participants would want it mid afternoon. And most of them would prefer it on Thursdays. That's why our webinars are on Thursdays at early morning, at mid morning in Manila, and which is consequently mid afternoon in Australia. So it works both ways. Maybe because there are less competing priorities during these times, we don't know. But these are the preferred webinar schedules. 92%, almost 9 out of 10 people want to have a Q&A session after the webinar, which makes sense. You don't want to walk away of a session with a million questions in your head. You want to ask them. And also, because the speaker, like me, did all the talking, you'd want to be heard as well. That's why we have a lot of greeters on our social media platforms, because one way or another, they want to feel, you guys want to feel that you are actually a part of the conversation, which is all right. And when it's your turn to speak here, in a session like this, do not forget to acknowledge your audience, because that's a very big factor in keeping your webinar successful. 67% said that the most important thing in a webinar is a passionate presenter. If the presenter is worthless or is not an expert of his or her topic, I think this does not only apply to webinars, but applies to any kind of presentations. People will just fall off, and bad publicity would start to go around. So whenever you are presenting, you have to make sure that the material, it actually came from you. You've mastered the material. You rehearsed. You practiced, and it's going to pay off. Now, maybe some of you are gonna go like, "Oh my God, Joe, you just presented me with like gazillion numbers in there. What do they actually mean? Why don't we play a game? Ray, if you could help me,
Sure thing.
um, we're going to play Name That Movie. So what I'm going to do for all of you who are watching right now, I'm going to flash scenes from a movie, and you're going to tell me the title of the movie.
Uh-huh.
All right? Are you ready, Ray?
Yep.
All right. I hope our audiences are ready. Here we go. Movie number one. Go ahead and type your answers. I am so sorry for those who are not from the Philippines, but this is a kind of a Filipino movie, but it's gonna make sense as to why I actually
That's true.
projected it here. Do they have? Is social media starting to pour in some answers, right?
Uh-huh. We have one. Well, the
Yep.
first one that we've had is there you go. We have two, three, four, like Rubelin Riano, Miko Cabral. They all said hello, love, goodbye.
Ah, Miko.
Noveline,
Hello.
Benedictna, Noveline, Rachel, they all said hello, love, goodbye. And also
All
Leia
right.
Santiago.
Okay. If Box Office Mojo is to be trusted, Hello, Love, Goodbye is the highest grossing Filipino movie of all time so far. It grossed 880.6 million pesos, and it lasted 1 hour and 58 minutes on the screen. And I bet some
Mhm.
of you watched it more than one time.
Yes, it is a good movie.
What about this?
Another one. Let's see
I'm not a cat.
how
I'm not a Catherine Bernardo fan. I
Kanin.
just happen to take a look at statistics. Let's take a look at social media. What are they
Let's
saying, Ray?
look at social media coming on in Facebook. Let's see what are their answers.
Hmm.
Miko Cabral says The House of Us.
Oh my gosh, Miko!
Miko,
I didn't know Miko is a couch potato. Miko's our
I think
assistant lead for admin operations. Hi, Mix.
John Harold says The House of Us. Felipe also says The House of Us. Jogmin
Ah,
also says The House of Us. Mary Carpio. Gister
all right,
Naira Regina Rose is also saying The House of Us.
all right.
And also
Well, it
Emily
is.
Naira.
It is
Correct?
the House of Us. Are you guys still seeing my screen?
Yes.
Yes. All right. The House of Us grossed 810 million pesos. It's the second highest grossing Filipino movie of all time, 810 million pesos, and it lasted for 120 minutes. And again, I bet some of you watched it more than one time, either on the screen on iWant or any other sources.
Uh-huh.
Let's take a look at movies outside of the Philippines.
Uh-huh. Ah, this is more exciting.
If you don't know this movie, you must be living in a cave. But is social media actually getting it, Ray?
Yeah. Social media comments are getting in. So one had said, I watched it on Netflix, one of my favorite movie by Lenny.
But who?
We have Clyde. He says the Avengers Endgame.
All
And
right.
also Felipe Avengers. Yes.
All right.
Also I have Jacob Angelo, Janel, they said it they saying Endgame.
Well, it
And
is
Lizzie
Avengers
Ann.
Endgame. It
Yes,
is.
and
In the Philippines
Jericho.
alone, it grossed $32.84 million in the Philippines alone. Multiplied by 50, you'll get the peso equivalent. And this long movie lasted for 182 long minutes. And again, I bet some of you watched it two, three times, either on the cinema or on demand platforms, or maybe on cable TV. Yeah.
Yes.
Now, this last movie I'm gonna this last movie I'm gonna flash. I think only Lynn, our head of people and culture, will get.
Oh, this is iconic. Let's see with our
Yeah,
social
but because you
media
like classic
comments.
films, right?
Yeah.
But I think only Lynn will get this right. But let's see what social media says.
Let's see what social media says. So we
No
have
comments.
Lovely. Lovely said it's Titanic.
Ah,
NJ also says it's Titanic. Lizzie Ann, Kate Ann also said it's Titanic. Mary Grace, Mel Brave also said it's Titanic.
hmm.
Malenevia said it's Titanic.
Malen.
And also
Hi,
Regina
Malen.
Rose.
Yes, it's
They are
Titanic.
called Rec Rio also said it's Titanic.
It is Titanic. And oh, this movie grossed $2.2 billion globally. It lasted 3 hours, 30 minutes, 210 long minutes. And during the time this was shown on the silver screen, we didn't have on demand platforms yet. So I
Mm-hmm.
bet people watched this
Yes.
over and over again. I knew people who watched it 5 times in 1 month, and they're even proud of it. Um, but again, it's so if you watched it 5 times, you've wasted
3 hours,
what 15,
30 minutes.
more than 15 hours of your life for a single movie.
Yeah.
So, social media. Are you telling me that you can sit down and watch a movie for close to 4 hours and watch it again and again and again and again and again, but you can't sit down in a webinar of less than 1 hour?
Mm,
Aha, crickets. But don't worry, it's not your fault. It's the fault of the presenter. If the communicator is not able to engage you, then it's not your fault. Thank you, Ray. We'll come back to
thank
you
you.
later. But what actually made these movies interesting? What made them glue you on your seats for 3 hours, 30 minutes for Titanic? Coherent plot, organized storytelling, superb aesthetics and technicals, and they have great actors. Yeah, you guys agree? I hope you guys agree. Now, maybe some of you will be asking, Joe, this is a movie. This has nothing to do with presentations. Actually, it has. Most especially right now that everything is done, or most of the things, most of the presentations that we do is done virtually. What should you do? What should we do? Number one, make it personal. Yeah, guys, um, friends, most of our audiences are watching us from their homes. So when they take a look at their phones, they take a look at their computers, they actually look at you and no one else. The brain, their brains, our brains will be telling us that they're not talking to anyone else but me, but you. So it almost feels like a one on one thing, doesn't it? So unless you make it look like you, the presenter, are talking to your audience eye to eye, one is to one, then it's going to fail. Yeah, you must practice looking into the camera and understanding, appreciating that there would be or there might be hundreds of other eyes looking at it. That's the only way you could look and sound sincere in front of an audience. So practice that. Again, they welcomed us in their homes in the middle of competing priorities. So start by thanking everyone for participating amid the current conditions. Empathy is key, most especially during these times that the Philippines is still grappling with the pandemic. Attack the expectations head on. If you would notice at the beginning of this conversation, even if I'm expecting hundreds of people participating today, we still asked expectations. You have to address it head on. If you see something in there that would not be met, you need to address that right away so that you won't be wasting other people's time. There are a lot of competing priorities. Some of you may have kids at home, some of you may have elderly you need to take care of. It's almost lunch, maybe you need to cook for lunch and all that. So we need to respect everybody else's time. Again, let's not contribute to everybody else's burnout. Empathize, connect, share experiences, best practices, life stories, ups and downs. Don't bore people with successes. They've already heard that. What they need to understand is they're also listening to a human being. Don't bore them with do this and do that. Yeah, I've heard this. Because if you're just going to tell them that, then they might better just read it off somewhere. They want to hear something new. They want to hear that you're an expert. They want to hear that they're talking to a human being who's actually made it through different kinds of challenges. They want it to be personal. They want it to be inspirational. The next is make it relevant. Present with truth. Keep your plot intact. If we're just talking today about presenting in the age of virtual presence, then let's stick with that. Let's not talk about how to make interactive, I don't know, ebooks, because that's not the topic. We need to stick to the plot. We need to have a message. Some people, all of you, need to take away something from this conversation. So we need to keep the plot intact. If you watch the Titanic, which dragged for more than 3 hours, there's just one plot in there. The boat will sink. Yeah? Everybody knows the boat will sink, but nobody knows if Jack or Rose will actually survive it. And that's what kept you glued throughout that entire film. In the Avengers Endgame, you know that one way or another Thanos will be lost. But how will they defeat Thanos? So, you have to keep your plot intact. And this goes the same way in your presentations. Research, prepare, cite sources if you've actually got them from somewhere. And check your audience. Speak their language. If you're talking to a bunch of technical people, then you need to make your language technical. If you're talking to a general audience, you need to make it as plain as possible so that people actually get you and understand you. You have also, from time to time, break the monotony with humor. Yes, you have to try. Even if you don't find yourself funny, believe it or not, the only reason why people survived the Titanic, Avengers, and all the other movies out there for more than 3 hours is because these movies interject humor every now and then, and so should you. These are people you're talking to, and you have to get their attention. The moment it's sinking, you have to get them back into the discussion. Also, you have to respect your audience's learning types. Let's just go through these learning types very quickly. If you Google learning types, there would be a lot of them, but I'll just focus on the VART model. So there's visual, auditory, read, write, and kinesthetic. um, Visual people are those that are engaged with, very aesthetically pleasing visuals. So they like paintings, they like well organized books, they like um, sceneries, prairies, and things like that. So you have to please them. You have to make sure that your presentations, your visual aids, are aesthetically pleasing. Now, for our auditory learners, you have to make sure that in your presentations, you are actually heard well and you sound well, and there are no interruptions, there are no internet connection statics or whatever. So they have to be pleased, they are actually pleased that way. Now, for the read and write people, these are the people that, I don't know if you've seen people like this, but I've seen a lot of them. When I was in a class, when I was in high school, college, when studying in class, I noticed that people just, write and write and write. They write whatever, as if they're not listening at all, but they actually are listening. They just had to write something in order to to attach a memory on, and that's all right. Now, for people who like to read, make sure that your presentations have sufficient information in there, so that if they look at it, they see some information, they'd be able to write them down, and that makes it engaging for them. Like in this visual that I have here right now. So visual learners, well, you see something in here. I tried to make it appear like I wrote it on a on a board. I'm talking, so I hope the auditory people are actually learning from me right now. Read or write. I listed four types of learning in here that you can actually read and write down, because it's like an enumeration kind of thing. Now, for the kinesthetic learners, these are the people who need actions. And in a virtual setting, it might be a little bit challenging to keep them engaged. It's a good thing that we have gestures. In Zoom, we have the thumbs up gesture. In Teams, I think we have that as well, the raised hand gesture. In StreamYard, which we are in streaming right now, there are no things like that. But in Facebook, you can click the thumbs up. All the other emoticons in there. In YouTube, we have that as well, or you can just type in. It somewhat simulates actions, and that's the way you keep kinesthetic learners engaged. So, if you're saying that, oh my gosh, Gel, it's impossible for you to engage all of these learners in a single presentation, it actually is. You just have to make sure that your visuals, your audio, your presentation, your the information that you're presenting, and your questions and the flow of your discussion are intact, and your presentation will actually work well for you. Now, the big thing that people are forgetting nowadays when they're doing virtual presentations. Oh, sorry. Yeah, virtual presentations are the technicals. Yeah. Look, you have to do a sound check. I'll tell you what. Sam, are you still with us? Well, you should be with us because you're our director, aren't you? Um, Still with
Yes,
us, Sam?
yes, Jill.
Okay. Sam, how many minutes do we allot for technical checks prior to the show?
That's 30 minutes.
30 minutes. And then prior to the technical check, how many hours do we allocate for making sure that the technicals actually go well on the day itself, like setting
That's
up,
almost,
marketing, and things like that?
yeah, I think that's almost 2 weeks or at least a week.
Yeah. And then from time to time, Sam, you sit down with the presenters and take a look at their presentations if they're visually pleasing. How much time does that take you?
Usually about 30 minutes also.
About 30 minutes. And then you
Yeah.
work out tweaks with them and all. What if they
Yes.
ask you to prepare the presentations? How long does that take?
Oh, usually that takes me around 1 hour to 2 hours of time.
All
Yeah.
right. All right. Well, thank you, Sam.
Thank you, Jel.
All right. Well, there you go, guys. Again, focus on the technicals. It's important. Um, there's 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 no line separating you now between um, between regular presentations and TV. It's the same now. So you have to make sure that you look well. Well, not really pretty, but at least you look presentable on a on camera. Your backgrounds are not distracting. I hope my background is not distracting you. That the sound, ambient noises are kept to a minimal. You have to take into account these things because these are now part of the new world, of the new normal. And lastly, you need to rehearse. Yeah. Earlier, I told Sam, hey Sam, just give me a few minutes because I'm rehearsing. And when I said I'm rehearsing, I'm actually doing it in front of a sample audience here at home, who could who could give me an immediate feedback on what I need to change and what I need to tweak. Because you need to do that. You need to test it in front of your audience. You can't pretend that you are the best person in town and just go on and on. You need to get feedback from real people before you actually present to a large audience. If you can't do that, if you can't tap anyone, then do it in front of a mirror. I'm not sure if you guys do that at night, but I usually do that. Well, not every night, but when I have a big presentation, I usually look at the mirror and practice my facial expressions, gestures, and listen to myself. If I could record the way I speak, I do that and I listen to myself so I could critique my own and that actually adds confidence to you on the day of the presentation that you know your presentation 100%. You know all the periods and the dots in there. You know what's going to come next during your presentation, the next slide and things like that. And you've practiced to answer possible questions. That makes you more confident. So when you say technicals, it's not just the audio, it's not just the video, but the totality of your discussion. You need to rehearse these ahead of time. And I'm hoping that those of you who are listening right now are doing it, whether it be virtual or a physical presentation. Because you know, if it were a physical presentation, you'd still have to go to the room ahead of time and set up everything to make sure that everything goes well and smooth during your presentation. It's practically basically the same thing in a virtual environment. And then lastly, be engaging. Yeah. Engage is a very big word, but really, the only things you need to do is need to ask your audience to participate in chat. Ask them if they agree with you by clicking the the thumbs up. Um, Button in Zoom, in Teams. Just ask them to raise their hands. Or if you have only less than 20 people, I think they can go on and they can unmute themselves and just be rowdy. Ask them how things are going and all that. Um, and if they can, encourage people to turn their videos on. Most people would usually turn their cameras on because they're shy or just burnt out. But I'll be honest with you guys. If even if you Google, what's the number one reason why there's burnout? It's because people are missing social interactions in the office without them realizing that they actually miss it. In the office and you sit beside your um, your colleague, you usually talk about a lot of things. Yeah, in an 8 hour shift, it's impossible for you not to have small talks every now and then, not to talk about crush on the other aisle. Not to talk about what you're going to eat for lunch, not to talk about, hey, where are we going to go for breakfast, what are we going to do after shift, or most important of all, oh my gosh, it's sale today. Why don't we go to Aura and spend all of our hard-earned money? So all of these things disappeared right now, and the only way for you to realize that you're still talking to humans is for you to actually see. that you're still talking to humans. So encourage people to turn their video on, but do not force them. If they don't want to, that's fine. But eventually, again, herd behavior. If they see that people are starting to turn their videos on, and if they see benefit on it, they'll start to turn their videos on as well. So just be engaging. And now, lastly, before I bore everyone to death or starve everyone to death, let's just take a look at these very common virtual interactions and what you could actually do to make them more engaging. What you need to start, stop, and continue doing. For interviews, since most, if not all, of the interviews nowadays are done virtually, make sure that you present yourself well. And again, just like we mentioned, check the lighting, check the audio, test your tools prior to the interview. If you're not used to using Teams, download it ahead of time and practice doing it. And then be natural, be a person, do not be robotic. You can rehearse your answers to questions, but please don't answer questions as if you just Googled them and copied and pasted it and memorized it. No, don't do that. Just be a person and be natural. And at the same time, start asking questions. Most probably, your panel would ask, "Hey, do you have questions at the end of the interview?" Um, and it's fine to ask questions. It's fine not to have questions, but if you have questions in your head and you're just hesitant to ask them, um, just ask. Don't be afraid. It makes the interview more engaging. It also shows that you're interested for the job, and it also shows that you actually can engage. You are able to engage people, whether whoever it is. You're not intimidated. You're confident. Um, these are the things you need to stop doing. Relying on verbal cues. People will not understand you right now unless you talk. Yep, that's a big thing in the virtual world right now. Unless you tell someone what you're feeling, they're not going to understand what's going on with you. We will not have a mirror ball, um, um, and try to understand what's going on with you just by looking at that ball. No, you need to verbalize your feelings, your what you're going through. You just tell them, I'm having some technical issues right now. I'm sorry, Teams is not working on my end. Just give me a moment. I'll try to solve it. You know, you can't just go on mute and assume people understand what you're talking about. You need to be very clear about what's going on with you, what you need, what you need to say, what you're feeling, in a way that the other person would understand. You can't assume that they understand you unless you say it outright. Also, stop checking your mails, stop checking your progress in ML, stop doing anything else, but focus on the person you're talking to. Respect. And I think this is basic. I don't need to explain it, but it can become distracting because sometimes you forget to turn on or turn off things. So make sure that before you go and step into an interview, you've turned off Outlook, you've turned off Teams, Skype, the annoying notifications that would distract you. Take them out, take them all out, so that you can you can concentrate. And this doesn't just go for interviews. This goes for everything, for every interaction that you have. And then just continue dressing well. Review the job description or the position description ahead of time, and show the interviewer that you know what you're talking about, you know what you're applying for. Rehearse, practice. Possible questions that might be asked from you. Just go in front of a mirror and practice it. Again, that adds to your confidence. And lastly, continue researching on the employer because that means you've done your due diligence, and you really are interested in becoming a part of that company. Meetings start with empathy. Everything has to start with empathy nowadays. Again, we are taking time out of someone, off from their personal life. So we have to start by thanking them for allowing us into their homes. So thank you guys for allowing me into your homes, and empathize that these are not the best times to learn. These are not the best times to spend on anything. these are not the best times to work, but everybody is still working and everybody is still allowing time to spend with all of us. So we have to appreciate these little things. Small talks make everyone feel that they're still part of the conversation, because again, this adds to burnout. The absence of small talks in the office adds a large amount, adds largely to burnout. So if you could talk about random things in a meeting that could break the monotony, just go ahead and do that. Respect time. I know we're going over time right now, but we'll finish in a bit. So respect time. And lastly, again, encourage everyone to turn their cameras on. We've already talked about this. I'm not going to expand it. But again, if they don't want to turn their cameras on, that's fine. But if someone turns his or her camera on, and everybody realizes that there's value in it, again, herd behavior would kick in. Stop sounding like a Sunday church preacher. Stop hoarding attention, or stop allowing someone to hoard attention. Make sure that there's an even flow of discussion around the table. Continue just having relevant conversations. If the topic can be discussed via email, just send an email, because again, we have to respect everybody's time right now that we have competing priorities. You have to make sure that your visuals are engaging, and don't stuff a million texts in a single page, because everybody's just not going to read it, and you lose you lose the goal of making everybody understand you. Also, send pre-reads. In an invite that you're going to send out, attach a small presentation or a small agenda explaining to them what you're going to discuss during the meeting, and that makes your meeting more productive. So yes, attach pre-reads. Now, what about large audiences? You need to start with gratitude and empathy. Thank everyone for their time. Time is a valuable commodity, which has um, which the pandemic made more expensive. So thank everyone for their time. Plan your content ahead of time. Please don't do it 24 hours before the event itself. Plan ahead. If you could plan it 2 weeks ahead, do that. That makes your presentation more fruitful and engaging. Segment peaks and troughs, meaning if you think that one topic would be interesting, then pair that with another less interesting topic to make sure that you have peaks and troughs throughout the presentation. That is actually a secret ingredient of um, very long talks and very long films. So you'll notice that when you watch the Avatar, you're going to have an interesting topic, and then it goes down Denoma, and then it climaxes again at Denoma. That keeps everyone engaged. Consult. I think I've mentioned this earlier. So rehearse in front of an audience. If it doesn't work, tweak it. If you are presenting in front of an audience, or if you were asked to present in front of an audience by I don't know, HR or someone from people in culture, or an owner of a business, ask them why. What are the symptoms I need to address? That way, you can make your topic relevant. If you can also ask a pre-event meeting where you could go through your drafted presentation prior to the event itself, then that can count as a rehearsal. So you can still tweak your presentations and all that. Again, that makes your content better. That makes you a better presenter. That makes you an awesome communicator. Now, again, stop in, in- stop throwing a lot of texts in your presentations, unless it's also a white paper. But nevertheless, just don't stuff it with too much text, please. You're just inviting people to sleep in your presentation. Weed out irrelevant topics, drive them into a laser-like focus on the end goal of your presentation. We've mentioned this earlier. Stop sounding like someone who's preaching, and please do not underutilize your tech. Use whatever features are available in there to engage your audience, and don't make your audience feel like you're detached. Don't make them feel like you don't care. Just go on and on. And then what you need to continue answer Q&As. That adds to your credibility and that makes you understand what's going on in people's heads. Be prepared, be thought provoking. If there are hard truths that you need to set off in the discussion, go ahead and do that. Just sound natural and engaging. Again, you're talking to people, you're not talking to robots, but you're not talking to little children as well. So just sound natural, sound engaging, and respect your audience. Lastly, send feedback forms after your presentation. That makes you a better person, and that helps you improve your presentation in the future. Just final reminders, guys. These are some communication imperatives that applies to presenting, whether virtual or physical. So I hope you guys take note of these. Number one, our goal as communicators is not to be superstars, not to be put on top of a pulpit, not to be given a Best Actor or Actress award, but be understood. If you guys walk away from this and you forget my name, but you understand what I presented, I'm very good with that. I'm going to be very pleased with that because I've achieved my goal, which is to transfer a message to all of you. And that's our number one goal as communicators. Different times, different strategies, guys. Know and use your tech, please. If you don't know where to start, these are the top three most used conferencing tools nowadays. If you don't know their logos, the number one you're seeing in there on the left is Zoom. The one in the middle is Microsoft Teams. According to PC Magazine, Zoom is still the most widely used conferencing tool. Teams follows in at second, and Google Meets come in at third. Google Meets the third icon you're seeing in there. Just in case you don't know what the parts of a presentation are, so the big title in there is called the title or the header. If you have a little a little text under the header that somewhat complements it, that's called the subheader. All the pretty text in the middle of your presentation, of course, that's called the body. Everybody knows what a logo is. A tagline is GSI's tagline is enabling success. So there must be a catchphrase or a slogan that your company or team uses. Go ahead and put that in. And then, of course, whatever images that you have there or graphs is called a graphic. That helps you talk to your team, deal with your technicals more in a more organized way, so that when you talk to someone, hey, your header's not working, at least you're on the same page. Unlike when you're talking to them, hey, that big font in there is not working, he's just gonna go like, what big font? So know your technicals. Now, if you're doing um, a show like this, so Sam and I always talk about these things. So when you have um, small pictures of me on the screen, that's called an inset. So when you take a look at the screen, you slice it in three. The bottom the bottom part is called lower third. That's where you usually find the station ID or the logo. In the Philippines, I don't know why the station ID is the Christmas station IDs are called that way, but actually that's an audiovisual presentation. The station ID is seen on the screen itself, and then the program ID, just to tell the viewers, and to give them an idea what they're watching. The little text that crawls at the bottom of the screen is called a ticker. If it contains news, then it's a news ticker. Um, when someone talks on the screen and then you see his or her name in there, it's called a name tag. And the most important of all, the headline at the bottom of the screen at the lower third is actually called a chiron. So if you guys are talking about, hey, our headline is not working, change it, you're actually talking about the chiron. In StreamYard, these actually are very important because um, you see it on StreamYard. We use it on StreamYard. Aesthetics are important. Add fresh perspectives to your presentation. I'll show you some examples. The UP Resilience Institute Instead of telling them that, hey, Metro Manila has a lot of cases, they actually use dot points, and that actually drives the point more powerfully, doesn't it? I mean, the one, the that graphic at the right is visually striking, and it compels action. Yeah. So be creative. There are a lot of tools, and even just in Microsoft Office, you can use a lot of tools in there to make your presentations engaging, to make you more relevant, to compel people to step into action. Because again, if you're going to bore everyone and present just a simple table in here, it's not going to make any sense. Everybody's just going to go, oh yeah, right, a million cases or hundreds of thousands of cases. But if you show it this way, it will be easier. It will compel easier decision making. And you don't have to settle for graphs. Um, I'm not sure if you know this guy. Edson Guido is actually the head of analytics for ABS-CBN, and I follow him on Twitter because he's an interesting kind of guy. So there was one time that the DOH posted something, some statistics in there, and he was like, "Okay, if you guys are not getting what 10,000 looks like, this is what 10,000 looks like." So he posted on Twitter a stadium full of people. And then if you're going to look at the bottom part of the screen, it actually solicited a lot of interaction from people, with people saying like, "Oh, it's like the Araneta Coliseum," or one person saying, 16,000 is the capacity of Araneta. Another person is saying, "Look, Phil Sports Arena just has 10,000 people, and this means that with the cases that are pouring through in just one single day, we can fill in a sports stadium." So it actually solicits a lot of interaction. It compels people to action. So find a way to make your data presentations more engaging. Be creative. Lastly, love your audience. You have to be genuinely interested with your audience, because if you're not, then you're just going to throw them random things at one time and not care at all. But if you care about them, if you sincerely are paying attention to their verbal, nonverbal cues, if you're paying attention to their feedback, then you would use it to come up with something better. And with that, I end my Sunday sermon. Ray, thank you to all of you. Um,
No,
I hope people are still with us, and I did not bore everyone to death or starve anyone to death. But I hand this over temporarily to Ray right now. I think he'll
no.
be back after
Well,
a few, but yes.
yes, yes. Thank you, Jel. It was very insightful, and we've learned a lot about the differences between the physical and virtual presentation. You also provided us tips and new ideas on how we can strategize our ways when we present virtually. And I'm sure our audience has a lot of questions that they want to ask to you. But however, before we go into our Q&A, we'll be taking a quick break. To our viewers, please hold on to your questions, and you are watching GSI Conference. We'll be back right after this break.
This year's GSI conference is brought to you by HR Network, Guild Solution Sync, and Enabling Media, enabling content through new media. Previously on Lods.
How are you?
We got to know more about Belle,
So good to see you again. And hello to everyone. Good
how she
morning.
conquered the biggest names in the tech industry,
Like I was doing interviews like at Facebook then, like, and I saw a job ad on LinkedIn for a PR manager at Spotify, and because like music has been such a big part of my life growing up, music and writing in particular. And so I've been watching Spotify like since they've been, like launched globally. And I was very, very curious about when they would be available in Asia. So when
what kept her going against all odds.
And so like from then on, like as the eldest person in the family, I've had to assume like a more like grown up, like out, right? Like I had to grow up overnight.
Watch the full episode on our YouTube channel or stream the podcast version on Spotify. This and other inspiring stories and learning events only here on Enabling Media, enabling content through new media.
Hi everyone, I'm Anthony Ash, the New South Wales Workers' Comp Team Manager. I've been with Guild for 2.5 years now. Prior to Guild, I was in workers' compensation roles at QBE and GIO Insurance. So I've been in the workers' comp industry for about 12 years now. From this incoming role, I'm expecting a hard-working administration claims officer to help us with processing invoices and entering and lodging new claims. Someone that will fit in with the team and get along with the current claims officers, as well as being able to interact with the workers' comp managers here to help out with any queries or inquiries. I think my management style is fairly relaxed, as well as still being helpful and proactive in any needs and training that any of the staff require. I'm always approachable and open to any questions and helping with any work that needs to get done. The shifts that we'll be offering are 6 a.m. to 3 p.m. local time, Monday to Fridays with weekends off. Some requirement for public holidays depending on timing and workload and things like that.
This year's GSI conference is brought to you by HR Network, Guild Solution Sync, and Enabling Media, enabling content through new media.
And we're back. We surely learned a lot from Jel as he shared with us first the difference between presenting physical and virtually, and how important it is to cater to these differences to ensure that your presentation is effective. He also showed some statistics on webinars, which gave us insights on how we can improve our presentation. Finally, he shared some tips and advice on presentation, the visuals, and the platforms that we can use on our presentations. Also, our request portal is now open for our viewers in the Philippines who would like to request for a certificate of attendance. Just go to bit.ly/GSI Conference 21 and enter the information requested in the form. So it's bit.ly/GSI Conference 21. So here are some important reminders to our viewers in filling out the forms. Number one, please make sure to provide your correct full name and email address. And number two, please make sure to provide the correct answers to the questions. Incorrect answers will be considered invalid. Again, some important reminders to our viewers. Number one, please make sure to provide your correct full name and email address. Number two, please make sure to provide the correct answers to the questions. So, incorrect answers will be considered invalid. So, quickly, let's say hi to our viewers. Let's see our chat now. Saying hi to Lenny Galano and also saying hi to Dave Bautista. The way the speaker communicates is very clean and charismatic. Thank you very much, Dave. Also for Rose Arlene, great presentation. Salute to the speaker. Salute to you, Jal. Thank you. Thank you, Rose Arlene. Janil Obidanyo, that was very informative presentation. I hope that everyone engaged more knowledge. Thank you so much, and thank you as well, Janil, for watching. So now let's go back and let's greet now Jel to entertain any questions on their social media.
Yep,
Hi,
that's all right.
Jel.
I told Lazada. Yep, that's all right. I told Lazada to wait. Um,
No worries.
no, I'm just kidding. Just go ahead and fire
We
away.
just yeah, we're just looking for our socials for any questions that they might have in mind. Let's pop it up on the screen once our director can see any questions on
Screen
our
one.
social
That's all
media.
right. I think he's still blowing his cake from yesterday. So let's just give him time.
Yes, belated happy
Um,
birthday to you.
while we're waiting for any questions, we'd like to invite everyone to join us again on it's Thursday, if I'm not
Yay.
mistaken. Same time as our president and CEO, Ian Moses, which is in very rare occasions face face public audiences. But he's going to talk about how to invest on trust and
Oh.
how trust actually enabled GSI to function even amid the middle of the pandemic. So um, I'd like everyone to I would like to invite everyone and allocate their time for another talk with Ian this coming Thursday if you can. And thanks for staying with us. I know it's lunch. Thank you.
So we have one question coming from Rose Arlene. Any suggestions for opening remarks if you are a speaker or a presenter?
Oh, that depends on what the event is. But if you are invited for a semi-formal event, and the topic has something to do with COVID-19, again, it must be empathetic. So, and if you're going to talk about statistics, most especially about death and all, let's try to avoid mentioning um, um, positive words when talking about statistics because this is when um, speakers usually fail to understand that when statistics has something to do with life with numbers that correspond to life, people become a little bit sensitive. Like, say, for example, when Secretary Harry Roque was comparing our statistics, mortality statistics with other countries, and he said it was way lower as compared with other countries. While he is right, most people saw it as a bit insensitive when we know that people actually died and people, mourned for the death. So be a little bit sensitive when it comes to talking about numbers, most especially if it has something to do with the pandemic. But again, empathy is key um, during these times, and I think it's going to because the pandemic is going on for quite a while now. Empathy is still the number one thing in any kind of presentation that you have, whether it be in interviews, whether it be in team meetings, whether it be large audiences like these. Always start with gratitude. Always appreciate people for attending the seminar, the webinar, spending time for you, and prioritizing you in the middle of competing priorities.
Thank you, Jel. Another questions that we have from Nebs: how to present the presentation in a less tense manner? Maybe that's what she's telling.
Hmm. Mm, try to inject humor. I think that's a very good
Yeah.
question. But the moment you try to inject humor, um, the situation actually, the emotions start to go down. And I think Ray knows what we're talking about. In our team, there have been many um, changes that we had to introduce in the past, and some of the changes are not really very popular. And as leaders, we have we have to execute changes every now and then, whether they are favorable or not. But in the long term, of course, not really favorable, but popular, whether they are popular or not. But it's always for the better. So it's in the way you communicate. We always try to set expectations to everyone that, look, it's going to be a painful change, but an assurance that the management is with you
Mhm.
throughout this change, and it will be for the better. Um,
Okay.
and if people are tense, if you see that people are not reacting at all or are about to kick each other in the faces, then you try to inject some humor so that they
Hmm.
try to they start feeling that, oh, okay, we are still humans, and this is um, this is just work. We're still going to
Mhm.
live after this. We still have jobs. So
Mhm. Yeah.
just so we could bring the emotions down, bring everyone to earth, try to appeal to their rational senses. And
Yeah.
I'm
Correct.
not sure if that answered the question, Nebs, but I hope that did.
I think that is. And so, for the interest of time, Jel, I will just have one question. I will entertain just one question, and we do apologize for those questions that will be unanswered. So hopefully you've learned a lot from this session. So the last question that we will be asking you is from Jasmine. So how does virtual learning slash age affect the individuals negatively?
Um, I think this question has something to do with education. um, for the early ages. I think that's what Jasmine is asking.
Yes.
I'm going to be honest with you, Jasmine. There was an incident when we were still living in Calamba, Laguna, and I think Ray knows this. There was an incident that prompted my wife and I to enroll our kids to homeschooling instead, and that was 7 years ago, when we realized that they've been doing homeworks in school, studying 8 hours in school, then they bring it home, then we spot something incorrectly taught to them, and then we correct it, and then we fix their homework, and then we were like, okay, we're like teaching our children now, and it's not really the school, so why don't we just educate them at home? So we were able to transition them to homeschooling way ahead of the others. So when the pandemic came in, we were like, we've been doing homeschooling for since for 7 years now anyway, so we're not really affected. But I understand that it's a painful transition for kids,
Hmm.
for parents, and most especially the teachers as well. Right now that they can't hold their their um, their class, their students, and the students themselves, our kids, cannot physically interact with their friends. They're missing their friends, I think. But what in any situation, what we always need to remember is there's always a positive. So instead of us dwelling on the negatives, which is inevitable, there's nothing we can do about it anyway. The pandemic is here. We have to stay in our homes. Um, it's the best defense against the pandemic, unless the vaccines miraculously arrives
Hmm.
tomorrow and everybody gets inoculated, then our children are safe from the pandemic. But
Yeah.
it's not. It isn't the case, and the only way we could um, we could um, we could help the government right now. Look, I'm not. pro government, and Ray knows this, and all of my friends know this. And if you're following me on Facebook, I'm not pro government at all. But we have to stay in our homes, and our children need to stay at home. They're the least, they're the most vulnerable apart from our elderly, so they have to stay at homes, stay at home. So there's nothing we can do about it. We just have to accept that. Whether it affects them positively or negatively, there's nothing we can do about it. But we have to focus on the bright side of things, and that encourages children to take a look at the bright side of things as well. They're now experts of Zoom, of
Hmm.
Teams, of
Yes.
Google Meets, which I learned when I was 26, um,
Yes.
27. My 14-year-old child knows how to edit videos, which I learned when I was 28, 29. So whatever they're going through right now, it's for the best. The pandemic catalyzed technology, catalyzed our adaptation to technologies that existed way before the pandemic. Teams have been here since, I don't know, 2018,
Yeah.
2017.
Mhm.
Skype was here since 15 years ago, I think. I can't
Mm.
remember it anymore, but Skype has been there for quite a long time. Zoom has been there, to be honest with you, for more than a decade, if I'm not mistaken. But people just realize that these technologies exist because, we can't physically interact. So, people have been, experts have been predicting this is going to happen. Not the pandemic, but the transition to remote way of learning and remote way of working and remote education and all that. We have been warned decades before that it will come. Nobody paid attention, and here we are. I'm not blaming, but I'm just saying that people are actually not listening until the reality is in their faces. So how will this um, affect our children? They might be aloof for a while. I don't know. I'm not an expert of early learning, but what I can tell you is that my kids who have been homeschooled for 7 years now are not afraid to talk to people. Um, in fact, when Ian came to the Philippines, he met my children. They were like, "Oh, hi, Ian. How are you?" I was like, "Oh, okay. So this is how they behave in front of strangers." Um, they're not afraid at all. They're not
Yeah.
aloof. They're very confident. Maybe because there isn't a bully in our home that's scaring them versus if they were in school. So take a look at the bright side. Now that they're at home and you have complete control of your child's learning, that's an opportunity for you as a parent to take care of your children without external influence. And the
Mhm.
only external influence that they have will go through their device. And you have complete control of what goes in their device anyway. So this is an opportunity for us parents um, to take control of learning and to support the teachers as well, because I've seen teachers crying in YouTube because they're finding it very difficult to engage their students. And if we are blessed with the capacity to invest in these kinds of technology, then good for us, because more than half of the public school students are having a difficult time studying right now to just to get in touch electronically with your teachers. So always enforce the negative. Your children would have to understand these are difficult times, and we just have to bear with these things all together. One way or another, we'll get out of it. It will pass. When it rains, it pours. It does, but it doesn't rain forever. It will
Yeah.
stop one way or another. All you have to do, the only way you could go through these difficult times right now with your children, is to show them that you have the mental strength to do so, and whatever you do, they mirror anyway. So just keep, just keep it going. Don't stop. Just keep going. They'll see that. They'll adapt to it, and they'll follow whatever your lead is.
Thank you. Thank
Oh my
you.
gosh,
Thank you, Jel.
did it just sound like a
Yes,
Sunday,
yes. No,
Rachel?
no, no, not
Oh my gosh.
really. It's still a Tuesday, so No, not really. It's Rachel. It's been a pleasure having you on the show. So
Mm.
hopefully you've enjoyed your time as much as we love having you here. Thank you, Joe.
No, thank you, Ray. You're hosting this show magnificently, and thank you for everyone
Thank you.
who
And
joined
also
us today.
correct, correct. And also thank you for everyone who is watching us today and joined us for this session. So next week we will make this show available as a podcast on our official channel on Spotify. And also on Thursday, April the 15th, Ian Moses, the president and CEO of Guild Solutions Inc., will be sharing us ideas and insights on enabling true trusts. So catch it live here on our social media channels, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. So stay tuned. On behalf of our team, our executive producer, our creative director, Jel Nolasco, our director, Sam Sutare, and our social media moderators, Kim, Malin, Micah, Pancho, and JC. My name is Ray, and this is Enabling Media, enabling content through new media. Maraming salamat po.
This year's GSI conference is brought to you by HR Network, Guild Solutions Inc., and Enabling Media, enabling content through new media.